One of the craziest weekends of Irish news stories I think I've ever reacted to today. We have about 7 or 8 different news stories. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for coming back to the show every single day. I really appreciate you. The fight continues, guys. The fight against the woke mainstream media and the Irish government, the brainwashing mainstream media and the Irish government continues every single day. So hopefully I get all the videos packed into one video today. This will probably be the only video in regards to the Irish news over the weekend, but every single week it feels like the Irish news stories get more and more extreme, guys. You know, it just feels like the Irish news is now becoming almost a spectacle. Okay, I'm watching, I'm reacting, I'm seeing different people, Ukrainian man get stabbed 100 times, this and that, just crazy. Like every single week it's like escalating. So I don't know where it's gonna go, but it's getting crazier and crazier for certain. First news story I want to react to today is John McLaughlin, who represents the National Party. He's a Waterford representative, okay? So he's from Waterford. Just does some campaigning, you know, National Party. They're not like a nationalist, socialist, nationalist, just the National Party. Same as the Freedom Party, a more right-leaning, more conservative party. Nothing extreme in the National Party whatsoever. But this guy here, this young man, was going to England to go see a football game, a soccer game, with his dad. Normal thing that Irish people do. Irish people, we normally travel to Britain to go watch these football games. Manchester United, Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool. Like we have a great connection to that. And he was arrested in Gatwick Airport, an airport that I was in only about 6 months ago. And I don't travel that much, guys. And I actually will be going back to England. So if you see me being detained, somebody else make a YouTube video about it, okay? Because I go to Gatwick Airport quite regularly now, like every year, okay, for a friend's birthday. And who knows what's going to happen to me? Well, am I going to get flipping arrested? Am I going to get detained? You know, if not, that's good. But this guy obviously representing a national party. They said that he was a terrorist. They brought him up on terrorist charges. They accused him of terrorist charges. So let's listen.
Today, the 18th of October 2025, at approximately 6:30 this evening, our party colleague, our Waterford representative, and indeed a friend of the Irish people, John McLaughlin, was detained at Gatwick Airport as he made his way to a football match with his father. Essentially, John was met by armed police and informed that he is being detained under some spurious anti-terrorist legislation and is, liable to be questioned for the next 6 hours without charge. I'm happy to inform that John has been released. John is in good spirits and that, everything's okay. But it really is a sign of the times when you have a relatively new to the scene nationalistic voice here in Ireland that can be picked up by the British security state and then, put on a list that when they come into the country they need to be stopped, detained and questioned. But make absolutely no mistake about it, John has earned that accolade because John was a keynote speaker at a re-migration summit that happened recently in Milan. John is resilient and determined as ever and is in good spirits and will enjoy his time away with his family. It really is a sad state of affairs, but sure, look, the system hates nationalists as much as nationalists hate the system. Biggie Lynn, yes, you're right.
Yeah, perfectly well said. So that was Councillor Patrick Quinlan, all right, lads. He's from Dublin. And, given a great recount there of what actually happened. So he was picked up at the Gatwick Airport by armed police. Now, the police in the UK, they only come with guns. They have an unarmed police force, and they only come with guns if there's something serious that's happening, And obviously airport police, they're probably going to be more on red alert. So they obviously have guns, but it's pretty intimidating. You're flying over to England just to go watch a football game, and some list that you're on, you get flagged as you fly into the country. That's bad. That's crazy. So who knows who's on that list? We'll never know whether there's going to be people of whatever, sustenance or whatever. You're there for 6 hours in detainment. So you're basically losing 6 hours of time. I mean, it's crazy stuff. What if you had something to go to or something to actually, watch, or, you had to do actually something important? Those 6 hours that they could hold him for, he didn't know what the hell was going to happen. It's crazy stuff. It's crazy. You're losing time, wild stuff. So, and we know this because the Irish state and the British state are working together. They're pretty much against any sort of sovereignty. They hate any sort of more right-leaning party. Pure communists. They're pure Marxist. They hate actually pushing forward any sort of nationalism on the people. They hate their own people, basically. These countries hate their own people. And this shows true in this news story. It says, some flying the tricolour dishonored our national flag, says Micheál Martin. So Micheál Martin's comments come after the Dublin City Council said that it would want to meet Gardaí over concerns about the erection of Irish tricolours flags in public spaces across the city, following concerns raised by some residents. So some little bitches said, oh my God, I don't like the sight of the tricolour, which that's racist, guys. You know, if you don't like the tricolour, what flag do you like? The LGTB, the trans flag, the minor attracted persons flag? What flag do you like? The black flag for pirates? What sort of degenerate shit are we leading ourselves into? You know, what flag do these people like?
The generation of idealists who came to this place and called for us to remember Tone also gave us our national flag. It was similar to the French tricolour, but its origins came later. It reflected a wider liberal nationalism internationally, which sought to create new symbols which reflected the ideals of the people rather than the identity of their master. A national flag which explicitly called for a nationalism that embraced different cultures and political traditions is a wonderful legacy which they left us. Whatever your ideology, you dishonour our national flag if you claim that you alone represent Irishness or our political aspirations. If you use our flag to try and claim that there's a fixed national identity, it shows that you do not understand our history and you do not understand that our identity has survived because we've been willing to evolve and be more inclusive.
It's ironic that these people are all, for these militaristic people, these more right-leaning people, because Wolf Tone would hate Micheál Martin. He would hate to see what the country has been turned into. All these great leaders of back in the day, Michael Collins, all these great guys, they would hate the actual establishment in 2025. They're turning in their grave every single day. They can't believe what's happening. This is the kind of melting shit pot that they want now. They want everyone to come in, open borders, tyrannical government. It's crazy. It's destroying the countries, raising crime, destroying housing. It's just the same playbook that used Marxist overseas in Italy, in France. They use this Marxist playbook that's destroying the countries. Like, nobody ever talks about diversity in Pakistan, or nobody ever talks about diversity in Latin America. It's only in European countries that they want diversity. Notice that, guys. They're coming up with some conspiracy theories in the government that aren't true. They're kind of trying to create their own narrative in their head, but it's not true at all. It's schizophrenic. So literally the residents of Ireland, and I've said it before, corruption comes from within. It's not coming from outside. Nobody from the outside Ireland is doing anything wrong to this country. It comes from the inside, your borders. Your own Irish person is saying, yeah, let everybody in. Take down the Irish flag. That's just crazy stuff. How can you be for that? It's ridiculous. Speaking at a media event last month, the prawn himself, the shrimp himself, Taoiseach Simon Harris, said the far right would not be allowed to hijack the valued national flag. He's really concerned about national flag and national identity, when he should actually be concerned about Harvey, who died under his care, who said that he would only have to wait 4 months for treatment, ended up waiting 8 years, subsequently died because of his lack of treatment. These people are focusing on the wrong stuff, They're focusing on the wrong stuff completely, and this is an example of that. This is Sinn Féin David Cullinan, and spokesperson for health, says we have a long, long way to go in trans healthcare. So like I said, they're going to keep pushing this Marxist, keep pushing this communist idea of getting more and more kids, younger and younger kids, to turn trans, turn gay, and keep brainwashing the youth into being something that they shouldn't be doing. This is demonic, in my personal opinion. This is 100% demonic. They're talking about trans people when there's 16,000 homeless people dying on the side of the road in a ditch, and they can't house any of our own, but they have money for this.
I think inclusion is really important. Respect, as Mary said, is really important. We have a long, long way to go in relation to trans healthcare. We know that. We've discussed this in the Health Committee already. I've met hundreds of trans people and organisations, and they want proper care, proper pathways, proper supports, not just mental health, but all of the health supports that trans people want and need.
They absolutely need mental health care. Absolutely, 100%. Get them that. But don't be funding these treatments. Okay, and look at these men, guys. These are less than men. Look at these two guys with their legs crossed. They have their hands here, like little flipping, just like little beta males. They're just little beta males. That's who we have in the government here, because all the actual alpha males are off doing other stuff, trying to make money and, whatever, doing other shit, guys, partying probably, playing sports. These are the dorks that we have in government. We need to rise up, guys, and actually put in people that are masculine into government, not these little dorks. And these are the people that are running the country. They're so obsessed with trans, they're so obsessed with LGTB. This is Fianna Fáil here actually talking about it non-stop. Every day there's a new article talking about it now. It's ridiculous. It's just stupid as hell, guys. We have massive issues. People dying, no houses, no healthcare. There's barely any food for people because there's not going to be any resources. Food has gone way up in price. Now look.
Tonya, I read that article this morning from the former Taoiseach Leo Varadkar in relation to trans rights and in relation to the Gender Recognition Act. I'm the proud mother of a fabulous young man who's living his best life. And when I read that this morning, it gave me hope.
Wait, hold on. Is it a man or woman? What's going on?
Because there's a very small cohort of young trans people that are really subjected to awful abuse. I, as a mother, am subjected to awful abuse in relation to a young person living their best life.
So, obviously, we don't want people to be insulted. That's the last thing. You don't want people to feel ridiculed. They're using that as a straw man argument. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about abusing people or making fun of people or insulting people. We're talking about the state paying for this stuff, the state encouraging this stuff. There's a big difference, guys. Big difference.
And there was 1,500 gender recognition certs issued since 2015. It averages about 330 a year. A very small cohort of people. They've choose a different pathway in life. And all they're looking for is some respect and some healthcare supports. And I'm working behind the scenes to deliver those healthcare supports. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, but such is the toxic nature of young trans people. It's very, very hard to speak openly about it, but we won't be stopped in providing the healthcare that these young people need, and even starting with, for example, appropriate counselling for 12, 13 and 14-year-olds who are gender questioning. What I want to see then is access to endocrinology for 16 and 17-year-olds. I'm quite a conservative person myself. I have the lived experience of over 5 years in relation to young trans people. Young trans people come to my house. They come there because it's a safe place. They sit out the back. They have a couple of drinks. They have a chat. And all they're looking for is respect and support, and they're not harming anyone on you.
Yeah, they're not harming anybody, and they do have respect. This is the whole straw man argument, like I said. The government are pushing these narratives, these ideologies. Nobody has ever made fun of trans people ever. Nor have I, nor has anybody. Nobody talks about it ever, guys. They are just obsessed with this because it makes the whole country just think about it, and they ignores the other issues that actually matter. There's issues that actually matter in this country, and they're being ignored because of stuff like this. And we're being fed this narrative that if we don't import hundreds of thousands of people every single year, then the country would be nothing. You know, the whole country would collapse. But funnily enough, the country ran up till about 2013, 2012 perfectly fine. The early 2000s, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the country. Matter of fact, we had the Celtic Tiger here. It actually ran much better back then than it did now. So this is Nigel Farage trying to actually educate woke people on immigration.
Would you admit that this country would be nothing without our rich history of immigration?
Well, I tell you what. And this is what's gone wrong. Because you talk about immigration, and it ran from after the war up until the millennium at net 30 to 40,000 a year. And yes, it worked. In fact, we had the most successful immigration policies of any country in the whole of Europe. No question. Now, it is so totally out of control. Just think about this. 2.5 million people have come in the last 2 years. You wonder why you can't get a house. You wonder why your rents have gone up 25% in 4 years. You wonder why our infrastructure is struggling. You wonder why we have to build a new house every 2 minutes just to cope with the numbers. And that's the issue. It's now running at numbers that are literally unimaginable and are diminishing the quality of life of everybody in this country. And frankly, this should be the biggest issue of this election.
100%. Very well said. You know, if we have a little bit of immigration for well-educated people, and this is what I always talk about in my videos, the number one thing to take into account when it comes to immigration is the numbers of people. Okay, last year I think we had the equivalent of 9 million people in the US coming in. We've had like hundreds of thousands per year, 400,000, 450,000. They don't even know how many people. It's just flooding into the country. And it destroys the nation because there's no actually checking of people. There's no nothing. If you have a few people coming in and they're working hard, doing different sectors, whatever, a few thousand here and there, not hundreds of thousands per year, guys. That completely changes the culture, the heritage. It destroys the entire landscape of the country. It's unimaginable. Why do you think rent has gone up? Food has gone up. Housing has gone up. They're doing this on purpose to make us all bankrupt. Like, theoretically, in Ireland, we could just let in another 50 million people. There is no end to the amount of people that could come here, you know? So it could just be an overwhelming swarm of people. Who the hell knows? It could happen, okay? It probably will happen. There probably will be, like, at some point in this country, 20 million people living here, or something bizarre. 100%, guys. If you don't think it's possible, you know, you haven't been looking at the literature. You haven't been looking at the actual information that's out there. And lastly, we have this article from the Irish Mirror once again. It says 32 million euros was spent on Garda security operation for Joe Biden's historical Ireland visit. So when was Joe Biden here? April 2023, it says here. Sometime around that, April 2023. So a few years ago when the US president came here, and they spent a mind-boggling 32 million for the Gardaí. Like, why would they even need that? You know, the president's security already has amazing security. He already has Secret Service and Special Forces and all these guys around him. Why do we need our own police to police that? You know, no offense to our own Irish Gardaí, but they already have their own people. Why do we need to be funding and helping out the American security operation? Like, it's just ridiculous. It just doesn't make any sense, guys. I mean, the money is just hemorrhaging. I would love to see Eddie Hobbs, Declan Ganley, one of these guys, run a sort of a DOGE, you know, Department of Government Efficiency in Ireland. You know, it'd be great to see we have our own sort of department here which cuts the spending, cuts the NGO funding, cuts these crazy spending, and trying to bring the wealth back to the country, to the people more specifically. It would be great to see that. Definitely we could do that. Definitely we could do that. But right now, with the current government that we have here in Ireland, they don't want to see that, lads. They don't want to see Micheál Martin, Simon Harris. They don't want to see a change in any policies. They just want to see the spending keep getting funded to them and keep getting more and more money themselves. It's corruption at the highest order, as I always say. Let me know your thoughts. If you guys want to support me, hit the join link underneath the video. Become a member today for just €3 per month. Can help support me so I can help support you guys, because the mainstream media is dead. We know that the Irish government and the mainstream media are working in cahoots together to brainwash the Irish public. So hopefully I can push back against that. I'll see you guys in the next one, man. Peace.